A world in ashes, the immediate aftermath. The world as we know it vanishes in a blinding flash, a moment that changes everything forever. Cities, once symbols of human achievement and bustling life, are reduced to smoldering craters, mere shadows of their former glory. Millions perish in the initial blast, incinerated in an instant, their lives snuffed out in a heartbeat. The so-called lucky ones face a slow, agonizing death from radiation sickness, their bodies succumbing to the invisible poison. The sky darkens, choked by dust and smoke, a grim reminder of the devastation that has unfolded. This nuclear winter blocks out the sun, plunging the Earth into an unnatural twilight, a perpetual dusk that seems never-ending. Temperatures plummet, crops wither and die, and the planet plunges into a state of perpetual winter, a frozen wasteland. Survivors emerge from shelters to a world transformed, a desolate landscape stripped bare of life, a haunting silence enveloping everything. The air is thick with ash and the stench of death, a constant reminder of the lives lost in the world that once was. The familiar sounds of nature are replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the crackle of radiation detectors, a chilling soundtrack to the new reality. The long winter nuclear climate change. The initial blasts are just the beginning. Nuclear explosions loft massive amounts of soot and debris into the atmosphere. This blocks sunlight, causing a dramatic drop in global temperatures. Scientists predict a nuclear winter scenario with temperatures plummeting by several degrees Celsius. This climate change would have devastating consequences for agriculture, leading to widespread famine. Dr. Alan Robach, a leading climate scientist, warns, even a small-scale nuclear war could have catastrophic effects on the global climate. His research suggests that a regional conflict involving just 100 Hiroshima-sized bombs could trigger a decade-long nuclear winter. The long-term effects of this climate change are difficult to predict with certainty, but they could include altered weather patterns, widespread droughts, and a collapse of global ecosystems. Invisible scars, radiation and its legacy. The story of radiation is one of unseen danger and enduring impact. The invisible killer in the aftermath of a nuclear war is radiation. It lingers long after the initial explosion, silently wreaking havoc on the environment and human health. It contaminates everything: the air, water, and soil. This contamination can spread far and wide, carried by winds and water currents, making it a global concern. Exposure to high levels of radiation causes acute radiation sickness, leading to a painful and often fatal death. Symptoms can include nausea, vomiting, and severe burns, and the suffering can be immense. Even low doses of radiation can have long-term health effects, increasing the risk of cancer, birth defects, and genetic mutations. These health issues may not appear immediately but can manifest years or even decades later. These effects can persist for generations, casting a long shadow over the future. Children and grandchildren of those exposed may suffer from genetic disorders and other health problems. Dr. Helen Caldicott, an anti-nuclear activist and physician, has dedicated her life to raising awareness about the dangers of radiation. Her work has been instrumental in educating the public and policymakers about the risks. She warns, the effects of radiation are cumulative and irreversible. Every exposure increases the risk of cancer and other diseases. Her message is clear: we must take action to protect ourselves and future generations. The Chernobyl and Fukushima disasters serve as stark reminders of the long-lasting and devastating effects of radiation contamination. These events have left a legacy of suffering and environmental damage that will be felt for centuries. Crumbling foundations, political and social upheaval. The social and political landscape would be irrevocably altered in the wake of a nuclear war. The very fabric of society would be torn apart, leaving behind a world unrecognizable from what we know today. Governments would collapse, borders would dissolve, and the rule of law would be replaced by chaos and anarchy. The institutions that once held society together would crumble, leading to a power vacuum and widespread disorder. The loss of life, infrastructure, and resources would lead to widespread panic, social unrest, and mass migrations. People would be forced to leave their homes in search of safety, creating a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented scale. Competition for scarce resources could trigger conflicts between groups of survivors, further destabilizing the world. The struggle for food, water, and shelter would become a daily battle, with alliances forming and breaking as quickly as they are made. Historian Richard Rhodes, author of The Making of the Atomic Bomb, argues that a nuclear war would represent a failure of civilization on a scale never before imagined. He emphasizes that the repercussions would extend far beyond the immediate destruction. He believes that the social and political consequences of such a catastrophe would be as devastating as the physical destruction. The psychological trauma and societal breakdown would leave deep scars on the collective human psyche. The world would be thrown back into a dark age with the survivors facing an uncertain and perilous future. The path to recovery would be long and arduous, with no guarantee of success. The lessons learned from such a disaster would shape the future of humanity for generations to come. In the chaotic aftermath of a nuclear war, the seeds of new conflicts would be sown. With established power structures shattered, groups would vie for control of remaining resources and territories. Old rivalries could reignite, fueled by desperation and the need for survival. The breakdown of communication and transportation networks would make it difficult to resolve disputes peacefully, increasing the risk of further violence. The potential for conflict over dwindling resources like clean water, arable land, and medical supplies is a major concern. These conflicts could easily escalate, leading to a vicious cycle of violence and instability. Survival in a post-nuclear world would require incredible resilience and adaptability. With traditional infrastructure destroyed, survivors would need to rely on their own ingenuity and resourcefulness. Learning essential skills like farming, hunting, and basic medicine would be crucial for survival. Communities would need to be self-sufficient, producing their own food, shelter, and clothing. The ability to cooperate and share resources would be paramount. Trust and solidarity would be essential for rebuilding a semblance of society from the ashes. Despite the bleakness of a post-nuclear world, there is always hope. Nature is remarkably resilient, and life has a way of finding a foothold even in the most inhospitable environments. Over time, radiation levels would decrease, allowing plants and animals to gradually repopulate the irradiated zones. The planet would slowly begin to heal itself, offering a glimmer of hope for the future. The human spirit, too, is capable of enduring unimaginable hardship. The survivors of a nuclear war would carry with them the memories of the past, serving as a reminder of the importance of peace, cooperation, and the preservation of our planet. Rebuilding from the rubble. The long road to recovery. Rebuilding after a nuclear war would be a monumental task, spanning generations. It would require a global effort, with surviving nations sharing their knowledge, resources, and expertise. The focus would need to be on restoring essential infrastructure, providing clean water, food, shelter, and medical care. Re-establishing communication networks and transportation systems would be crucial for connecting isolated communities. The challenge wouldn't be just physical but also psychological. Healing the emotional scars of such a traumatic event and rebuilding trust between people would be paramount. A fragile unity international cooperation in a post-nuclear world. The need for international cooperation would be greater than ever before in a post-nuclear world. Sharing resources, knowledge, and technology would be essential for rebuilding and ensuring the survival of humanity. Organizations like the United Nations would play a vital role in coordinating relief efforts, mediating disputes, and promoting peace and understanding. A renewed focus on diplomacy, dialogue, and conflict resolution would be crucial for preventing future conflicts and ensuring a more peaceful and stable world. Learning from the ashes, preventing future catastrophes. The horrors of a nuclear war should serve as a stark reminder of the importance of peace and the need to eliminate these weapons of mass destruction. The survivors of such a catastrophe would carry a heavy responsibility to ensure that history doesn't repeat itself. Education would play a vital role in shaping future generations. Teaching children about the consequences of nuclear war and promoting a culture of peace would be essential for preventing future conflicts. Investing in diplomacy, dialogue, and arms control agreements would be crucial for creating a safer and more secure world for all. A call to action, our shared responsibility. The threat of nuclear war is a global issue that requires a global solution. It is a shared responsibility to work towards a world free from these weapons of mass destruction. Each individual has a role to play in advocating for peace, promoting dialogue, and supporting organizations working towards nuclear disarmament. We must learn from the mistakes of the past and choose a different path, one that leads to a future where nuclear weapons are relegated to the history books and humanity can finally live in peace.